Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Today we're reviewing the Best Gaming Laptop 2021 edition. Now, gaming laptop performance has come a long way and now rivals comparably priced desktop setups. But there are some important things to understand for you to get the best gaming laptop deal. So this video is going to briefly cover all the key factors so you can find the best gaming laptop in 2021. Then we'll make specific product recommendations at every budget level to get you gaming. Of course, that's what this channel's all about, getting you the best price to performance in your PC. If you get value out of the video, give it a like as it really helps out the channel. And subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified when we release new content. With that, let's jump into it. First, let's talk about whether you want maximum performance or maximum portability. Now, the key constraint on gaming laptop performance, even in 2021, is cooling and available power. So while gaming laptop design has improved significantly, graphics cards and CPUs still run hot when a big demand is put on them. And additional cooling tends to significantly increase the size and the weight of gaming laptops. If you're mostly going to use the gaming laptop plugged in for gaming, then getting something with maximum gaming performance is probably right for you. If you want to take your gaming laptop to work or to class and use it as a daily driver in addition to gaming, then you're going to be looking for a thinner and lighter gaming laptop with somewhat reduced gaming performance. The most important item to determine gaming laptop performance is, of course, the graphics card, also called the GPU. Now, the first thing to know is that a full-size desktop graphics card will outperform the laptop version because of the basic physics of trying to smash it into a portable pancake with less power. On average, you can expect at least a 20 to 30% performance drop from a desktop card like the RTX 3070, which runs at about 220 watts, to one of the higher power laptop versions of the RTX 3070, which runs at about 140 watts. But just getting a high-end gaming laptop GPU doesn't mean you get the most performance. A gaming laptop with an RTX 3070 that can run at 140 watts of power will outperform a lower power 80 watt version of the RTX 3080 that are found in the thinner and lighter gaming laptops. Now, NVIDIA used to call these lower power models Max-Q, but they've dropped that designation in the RTX 3000 series. That's why it's important to know the total graphics power, or TGP, sometimes called the TDP, in addition to the GPU model. So looking at the difference in testing by PC Magazine of 3 different RTX 3070 gaming laptops, we can see a big performance difference between the 3. The Alienware M15 R4 laptop has a much higher TGP than the others, and it absolutely smokes the Asus TUF gaming laptop, but at the cost of being larger and heavier. Also note that NVIDIA GPUs use something called dynamic boost, which can divert a little bit of the unused CPU power to the GPU, so you may see this listed as 125 plus 15. For ease of comparison, I recommend you just add the two numbers together to get the TGP. But what about AMD's laptops? AMD now produces a very competitive line of laptop GPUs in the Radeon 6000 Mobile series, which compete at all performance levels except the ultra high-end, often at a lower cost than their NVIDIA competitors. Let's go over performance expectations for the various laptop GPUs. Now, my big disclaimer here is that comparing only GPU performance in laptops is very tricky, as there's so many variables between different laptop models with similar specs, including different memory kits, different cooling, whether Optimus can be disabled, more on that later, and the power packages set by the manufacturer. So I've taken a lot of benchmarks and compiled them into this rough guide intended to give you a general overview of GPU performance. At the ultra high end, we've got the special full power version of the RTX 3080, which comes with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, that's memory just for the GPU, and it's different than system memory, which we'll discuss later. From there, going down to the high end is the high TGP regular RTX 3080 8GB version and the Radeon 6800M. Going down to the top of the upper mid-tier is the Radeon 6700M and high TGP RTX 3070 gaming laptops, as well as the lower power RTX 3080 laptops in the thin and light versions. Then in the mid-tier, the lower TGP RTX 3070 along with the high TGP RTX 3060 laptops. The lower end of the mid-tier is the Radeon 6600M and the middle power TGP RTX 3060 laptops, followed by the low power RTX 3060 laptops. At the top of the budget category, we have the GTX 1660 Ti, RTX 3050 Ti, and RTX 3050. Note that the GTX 1660 Ti is generally the better buy here because it has 6 GB of VRAM instead of only 4 GB with the 3050 variants. But the 1660 Ti is only available on last generation gaming laptop models and looks like it may be phased out and not around for much longer. From there, we have the low-budget GTX 1650 and 1650 Ti, which are about 50% lower performance than the 3050 or 1660 Ti. That's really as low as I would go and still consider it a gaming-capable laptop in 2021. Note that you can still find laptops with an RTX 2080, 2070, or 2060 GPU, but for some reason, they tend to be very overpriced compared to the GPUs mentioned previously in this generation, and generally not worth considering. Though if you do find a good deal on a 2060 GPU laptop, performance-wise, it's between the lower TGP 3060 and the GTX 1660 Ti. So that's the GPU, but what about the CPU differences? At the high end, we've got the 11th generation Intel CPUs, which are slightly faster than their Ryzen 5000 counterparts, followed closely by the 10th generation Intel processors. In previous generations of laptops, which make up the budget end, we still find a lot of 9th generation Intel CPUs and Ryzen 4000 CPUs. Generally, the Ryzen laptops tend to have much better battery life due to lower power consumption, though I always recommend gaming while plugged in. But overall, the GPU model and its TGP far outweigh the CPU differences, so I'd focus my attention there. Gaming laptops today come equipped with a feature called Optimus that can impact your gaming performance by up to 15%. Now, in order to save battery power, most gaming laptops route the dedicated GPU through the weaker integrated GPU that is part of the CPU. That way, when you're just doing normal desktop things, the lower power integrated graphics can handle those tasks and save battery life. But when gaming and using the high power dedicated GPU, routing it through the weaker integrated graphics introduces a bottleneck, which can limit FPS. Now, some laptops have what's called a MUX Switch, either in the software or system BIOS, that disables Optimus after a system restart. There's also a feature called Advanced Optimus that allows you to switch without rebooting, or even letting the gaming laptop switch automatically. While you'd think that every gaming laptop would have some way to turn off Optimus, sadly many do not. One saving grace on laptops without a MUX switch is that many of them have external HDMI or DisplayPort outputs that link directly to the dedicated GPU. So using an external monitor may be one way to bypass Optimus. Overall, this is less an issue the weaker the graphics card is. So with higher end GPUs, I strongly recommend getting one with either a MUX switch or Advanced Optimus, and for lower level GPUs, it's not as big of an issue. Memory. In a normal year, I would just tell you to get at least 16 GB of memory for gaming with 2 sticks for dual channel, and that would be it. But sadly, 2021 is a year of silicon shortages, and some laptop companies have resorted to using cheaper and weaker memory that results in reduced gaming performance, even though it's rated at the same speed. It's a complicated topic, so I'm just going to keep it really simple and leave a link down below if you want to do a deeper dive. Normally, we'd expect to see memory that is one rank by 8 GB or by 8 for short, but some laptop manufacturers have been using much slower memory that's one rank by 16 GB or by 16. Unfortunately, there really isn't a good way to determine this, and the performance loss can be up to 20% in testing. My recommendations are going to include laptops with faster memory, but just know this is something manufacturers can change at any time, and they don't provide much information on. But if you find this happens to you, you can typically change out the memory kit with a better kit, and I'll leave one linked down in the description below. Note, if you are a serious creator hoping to do a lot of professional grade work in Adobe Premiere, Blender, or other programs, then consider 32 GB of memory. But if you're primarily gaming, 16 GB is all you need. And I would only consider 8 GB of memory as an absolute last resort for ultra budget gamers at the GTX 1650 GPU level. Of course, there's still the display panel to consider. Now, depending on the GPU you get, I'd either recommend a high refresh rate 1080p panel or 1440p one. 4K panels are typically limited to 60 Hz, and all but the fastest laptop GPUs will struggle to play AAA titles in 4K. So they're much better suited to creators doing photo or video editing type of work. If you want to game at 1440p, including modern titles, I'd get at least a high-power version of the RTX 3060, Radeon 6700M, or lower TGP 3070. Note that often manufacturers that offer customization like Dell, Lenovo, and HP will often offer a couple different panel choices on the same model. And my general advice is it usually makes sense to move up at least one display tier. So for instance, getting a 1080p 165Hz panel with better color gamut than the 1080p 120Hz cheaper option. But that's really only if you have the option to upgrade. Of course, there is the display size to consider as well, but most are either 15 or 17 inch, with some smaller and some 16-inch displays as well. Just know that the bigger the screen size you want, the bigger the laptop and the harder to lug it around. Finally, there are other features to consider like the keyboard, RGB, build quality, and other items, but for that you'll have to see individual reviews. My recommendations are going to take into account good quality on those items, but mostly focus on the gaming performance. So let's kick off our product recommendations. Now, links for everything are going to be down in the description below. Just click the Show More button to expand it out, and I'll have everything listed there neatly. I'm going to update these links with best deals at least a couple times a week, especially as sales pop up or things go out of stock. And of course, these are affiliate links. They do benefit the channel at no cost to you, so thank you very much. Let's kick off our recommendations at the ultra high end. So these all have an RTX 3080, and these have the 16 gigabytes of VRAM version of them that are going to be the highest total graphics power TGP versions. And of course, we're going to start with the Lenovo Legion 7. This is the one that everybody went gaga for, absolutely went out of their minds for, and there's just so much hype around them that they've been sold out for a long time. But the good news is it looks like they may be coming back into stock, at least temporarily. And there's two models here that I would strongly recommend. These will have top gaming performance. It's either the 7i, which is an Intel version with an 11th generation Intel processor, or the Legion 7 Gen 6 AMD version, which has a Ryzen 5900HX. And honestly, that is really the only difference between these two. The Intel one is $2,900 and the AMD one is $2,800 right now. I guess the other difference is the AMD one actually comes with 2 terabytes of SSD space as opposed to 1 terabyte on the Intel, so I would go with the cheaper AMD one for that alone. But they come with a 16-inch. It's essentially a 1440p resolution screen at a slightly different aspect ratio. So for instance, this one's at 2560 by 1600 as opposed to 1440p obviously. Overall, this has got to be one of the most recommended laptops of 2021, but like everything in 2021, especially at the high end, availability has been the challenge. Let's talk about some things that are actually in stock. So the Prometheus 17, this is a really phenomenal laptop. This was recently reviewed by Linus Tech Tips. Really surprised them. This is the AMD Ryzen 5900HX version with an RTX 3080 with of course 16 gigabytes and a total graphics power on this one of 165 watts. So this is the max TGP. It's phenomenal, and it has a MUX Switch. It's pretty much got everything you could want. Then, of course, we do have the Alienware X17. Now, the 3080 version, the 16 gigabyte 3080 version of this is phenomenal. Unfortunately, right now, as I'm speaking about it, it's sold out. It sold out a couple of days ago. I'm hoping it will be back in. Links will be down in the description. There is a lot of customization you can do to these. They typically come kitted out with 32 gigabytes of DDR4, 3466 memory, so fast memory. It's going to be heavier. It's going to be, 6.5, almost 7 pounds. But if you're looking for essentially a battle station, a desktop replacement, the Dell X17, when it's in stock, is great. The laptop that comes up, anybody who's reviewed this is the top of the benchmark charts on any game whatsoever that I've seen, which is the MSI GE76 Raider. Now, this is a 17-inch laptop. If we pull up the stats here over at MSI, we can see, yes, it has the RTX 3080, 16 gigabyte. It's got 165 watt TGP on it. Comes kitted out with 32 gigabytes of DDR4, 3200 memory. A really phenomenal panel as well, a display panel. And right now, it's in stock, finally, over at Best Buy for $3,100. So if you want the absolute best performer, this is the best performer. Maybe not all of the same features you'd find with like Lenovo Legion 7i, but if you're just looking for gaming performance, this is the one for you. Now we're dropping down out of the ultra high tier and just into the high tier. So for $2,700, we've got the Electronics Max 15. another RTX 3080 with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, has a 165 hertz display, a 1 terabyte SSD, and 32 gigs of memory. Really good performer. I think I would take a look at this one if you don't have like stratosphere level cache, but you still want to get the super high end of RTX 3080 laptop gaming. Then dropping down in terms of just value, we've got for $2,300 the Asus Strix Scar 15. This has a 300 hertz IPS panel. Ryzen 7 5800H. So now we're starting to see the CPUs drop down a little bit, but that's okay. 5800H is plenty for gaming. Unless you're going to do some really high-end content creation or something like that, you'll probably never really miss the 5900HX. And what I consider the absolute best value 3080 right now, which is the Gigabyte Aorus 15P. I don't know if it'll stay on sale. Typically sells for more than like $2,400. However, Newegg has it on sale right now for $2,100. And it has the 16 gigabyte VRAM version of the RTX 3080, albeit clocked down to 130 watts. Still, 240 hertz panel on this. These laptops really never took off in popularity the way any of the Alienware or the Legion laptops did. I still think that they are really solid performers, and it's definitely something I would look at if you want to maybe sneak out of the 3070 tier and sneak up and grab a 3080. All right, now let's drop down to the high end of the mid tier. This is where you're typically going to find RTX 3070 laptops, also the Radeon 6800M and 6700M, but those seem to just be out of stock everywhere, so we're going to focus on 3070s. Sadly, this is also where scalpers seem to have just descended and bought everything up and then reposted it on Amazon, because everyone wants the Lenovo Legion RTX 3070 laptop. Sadly, though, it should be selling for more like $1,700 or $1,800. Unfortunately, you can't really find it under $2,600, and that doesn't make any sense, because at that money, go buy yourself a 3080 model. So instead, let me give you two really strong options that are worth the money. The Electronics Mech 15 for $2,000, $1,999.99. Give me the penny, it's $2,000. This will get you a 5900HX and a 140 watt TGP RTX 3070. That is the highest TGP on the 3070, I believe, that's available to laptop manufacturers. 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, 512 gigabyte SSD. What else do you want? Maybe a 165 hertz panel to go with it. Overall, really good performer. And I gotta tell you, Alienware M15R4, yes, I know it's 10th gen Intel. There's nothing wrong with 10th gen Intel. It runs just fine. A little bit more power hungry, so battery life isn't gonna be as good as either 11th gen Intel or Ryzen 5000. But it does come with the full power 140 watt TGP RTX 3070, 16 gigabytes of memory, and this one comes with advanced Optimus as well as NVIDIA G-Sync for $1,920. This is about what you should spend for an RTX 3070 laptop. And if you find yourself spending considerably more than this, you need to stop, come back to these recommendations. And as other alternates come sensibly back into this price range, I'll include them down in the description. All right, now we're going to drop down solid mid-tier here. You're primarily going to find RTX 3060s as well as RX 6600Ms. Those are mostly out of stock. Lenovo does have some. However, I'm going to focus on the RTX 3060s because this is where I think people want to be. Starting off with the one that everybody wants, which is the Legion 7. Now, this is the 7i. This is the Intel version. The 7 with the AMD is you can't find anywhere. This has all the cool RGB, all the kind of extra features that the 5 doesn't have. But in terms of gaming performance, extraordinarily similar gaming performance. This comes with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 megahertz memory, a terabyte SSD, and it comes with that same 16-inch, it's essentially a 1440p panel with a different aspect ratio at 2560 by 1600 for $1,639. Again, we're beginning to approach 3070 territory with this one. So if that one's a little too rich, then they do have the Legion 5 Gen 6 Intel. This is actually Stingray white. I didn't know Stingrays came in white, but it comes with the same processors, essentially the same laptop itself, only it's almost $100 cheaper. And that's simply because this is the Legion 5 version of it without some of the cool RGB and some of the other Legion 7 elements. But if you're just interested in gaming performance, maybe this is the one you pick up instead. However, in terms of just competing with gaming performance, in testing, the Dell G15 RTX 3060 laptop held its own against the Lenovo Legion 3060 pretty much frame for frame. So, and in terms of build quality, it's a really solid put together laptop. This one comes with a 360 hertz screen. I will warn you away from the one with the 120 hertz screen. In reviews, that panel is not great. So this is the one you want. You want the upgraded panel, anything that's not 120 hertz basically. As spec'd out here, $1,400. This is a really great deal. This is actually, I've seen come down to 13, but again, for whatever reason, Dell prices fluctuate like crazy. Check out the links in the description for current pricing on that. And then of course, if that's too rich for your blood and you need to come down, I'll give you a couple other ones. Acer Predator Helios 300. The updated 11th gen version of this laptop has a lower TGP. It's only 100 watts instead of 130 watts of the old one. The two previous laptops I showed you were 130. But if you're looking for something to get into gaming, the performance is still very good on this. All right, dropping down to the top of the budget category, we're going to mostly be looking at this point for laptops around $1,000 that have a GTX 1660 Ti. That's what we strongly prefer. If we can find a 2060 or a 3060, that's better. Those are much harder to do at this price point. You're primarily going to be finding the 1660 Ti, something like the XPG Xenia here. Again, links down in the description. Last generation laptops, i7-9750H. Overall, strong performer, especially for a 1660 Ti. Then the other one is the Lenovo Legion Y540. This is a laptop I've recommended all year. This has a great 144 hertz panel on it. Very similar specs to the Xenia, except the Xenia had a 512 gigabyte hard drive, where this only has 256. Now, of course, you can always swap in the SSD for something else. This is an M.2. But once these laptops are gone with the 1660 Ti's, and I suspect that's going to happen here definitely before Christmas, then you're going to be looking for something with an RTX 3050 Ti, like the Lenovo Legion 5. Now look, this will play all of today's games. This doesn't have a problem. It's just that with 4 gigabytes of VRAM, you start thinking about, what do I need in the future? Now, what do? You turn down some of the textures in the future. And of course, you're not going to be playing this at 1440p. You're going to be playing at 1080p. So that's also going to help a little bit. So overall though, 512 gigs of storage space for $1,050 and a Ryzen 5800H, a very up-to-date modern processor. One of the best deals going right now is the Gigabyte G5 over at Newegg. The G5 144 hertz IPS panel on it. Got an 11400H processor. It's not the best, but it's got the RTX 3050 Ti. And with the rebate, it's $870. That's a pretty good deal. Of course, once we go down below $900, barring a really great deal on a rebate or something like that, you're primarily going to be looking for a last generation laptop with a GTX 1650 or 1650 Ti. There's not a huge amount of difference on this. I was educated by folks after my last video on this. It's only about a 5% to 10% difference between the 1650 and the 1650 Ti. Nothing to really go out of your way for. So for $900 here, the HP Pavilion with a Ryzen 5 4600H, that's a pretty good processor, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigabyte SSD, but it also comes with a 1 terabyte hard drive. Overall, this is a pretty good deal, and it's been there in stock for most of the year. And then the other one I would say to take a look at is something like an Acer Nitro 5. Again, these deals come and go. I will keep putting them in as new ones pop up. $850 right now for a similarly spec laptop, Acer Nitro 5. Check it out. Thank you very much for joining us on this Best Gaming Laptops 2021 edition. If you got value out of the video, please give it a like. It really does help out the channel. And of course, click the bell icon and subscribe. That way you get notified when we release new content. With that, we will catch you on the next one.